Recording in progress. It's time for another episode of Integrateness Podcast with Jason and Jolene. Guess which one I am and guess which one she is.
Well done.
Thank you. I try to come up with a new intro every time. It's not easy, but easier than doing radio every day, where every day you're coming up with a new intro all the time. So this is great. How have you been, Jolene?
Oh, I've been good. How about you?
Yeah, no complaints really. I'm excited for today's episode because we're talking about meditation. And meditation, I think, is one of the most important things a human being can do on a regular basis, preferably every day if you can. And it was something. No, go ahead.
Hold on a sec here, Jason. Would you have said that 5 years ago?
Oh yeah, I've been meditating for a decade.
A decade. Okay.
A decade. And I was one of those people, like so many out there, who is super hesitant to meditate because I tried so many times and I couldn't shut my brain up. But once I learned to shut my brain up, the benefits came like hard and fast. I did it right when I first went into counseling, dealing with trauma from the paper, and after my son was born, which of course we talked about before. And the improvement it's made to my overall health, I would argue, like overall health is immense. But you're the professional at this and you do meditation classes. Let's take it to you first.
Well, I don't do classes, but I mean, I've recorded meditations for people to use. I talk about the benefits of it. I practice it myself, but you want to talk about you've got like 6-7 years on me. I've really only been actively meditating for 3. So, but what I want to highlight is I felt all of our listeners' shoulders go up and their eyes cringe when you were like, meditation. They were like, you know how many people do that when I mention it and they roll their eyes at me, and I was like, try me, just try this, just give this a shot for a week, right? Because that is exactly it. I want people to hear that, like, at one point you were a skeptic. You were like, there's no way I can do this, right? It is like any journey we're starting in our life. It is a muscle we have to build, right? Anyone who's been to the gym or trained for marathons or learned a new skill, like, you got to start at the bottom. You got to start somewhere. So I'm first of all going to talk about the benefits of meditation. And if people are looking for any of this or quick access to meditations, you can go to www.jolenedon.com. And I have a whole meditation section there. Okay. Because I just wanted things to be quick and easy and accessible. Press a button. Don't need to think about it. Because when you hit that moment where you're going to do it, I don't want anything to get in your way. Okay. There's a fuck off meditation there. That's really great too.
I'm going to try that one.
Yeah. It's so funny. That was actually a client suggestion. She's like, can you do one about like just letting things go? And I was like, how about a fuck off meditation? She was like, that is great. And then her husband heard it in the hallway when she was playing it, because I gave her like the first version before I released it. And he just walked around all day being like, fuck off, fuck off, fuck off.
Awesome.
So there are so many benefits to meditation, Kate. And this is why I really think like discipline is the ultimate form of self-love. We've talked about that in the previous episodes, right? So this is about mental discipline. This is about disciplining, people will hear like the monkey mind and that sort of thing. And not all meditation is a spiritual process. Okay. That is one of the benefits of it. You don't even need to be a spiritual person to meditate, because I promise you the most successful people and like CEOs of companies, many of them meditate, and their form of meditation practice is to mentally discipline themselves. They gain creative ideas. It can help them achieve like courage and bravery to make big decisions, to get clarity around things. Like, it's not always about the spiritual connection and intention of things. There's so many benefits to allowing the more functional, rational parts of our brains to do their job, because it'll actually change chemistry in our brain too, which is what I'll talk about. But when we look at the general impacts of meditation, the benefits people will notice, it's a reduction of stress, depression, and anxiety. Okay. There's multiple reasons for that. Again, when we can discipline our thoughts, when we can stop the overthinking, when we can release ourselves of things and become more aware of what's actually happening to us, instead of this, bizarre state of, I'm not really sure what's going on. Why do I feel this way? The minute we gain understanding over something, our anxiety and unsureness of it really can alleviate in many ways. It improves memory, decreases age-related memory loss, improves focus and concentration. I'm going to tell you those things right there is because the amygdala, which is a very reactionary part of our brain, very emotion focused, the part of your brain that like loses its shit when somebody does something to trigger you, meditation will train that part of your brain, calm it, and in some CT like SPECT scans and stuff, shrink it. And when we can shrink that reactive part of our brain that's like activating our nervous system, putting us into fight or flight, we can leave the frontal lobe of our brain, the thinking part of our brain, the rational part of our brain, we can leave that prefrontal cortex connected, and we can actually grow and enhance that gray matter. So meditation essentially shrinks that emotional reactivity spot of your brain with long-term meditation kind of use, and it grows the part that makes fucking smarter decisions in general, right? It enhances self-awareness and mindfulness to boost our mood, to again make us more aware of what's actually happening within us. Improves sleep and the ability to relax. Well, when we reduce stress and all the things that keep us wound up, when we can alleviate all the activators of our nervous system, when we can kick in the parasympathetic, the rest and digest, makes sense that we can sleep better, right? And when we sleep better, we concentrate better. When we sleep better, it improves our memory. So you can see where everything ladders and bridges together here, right? Controls both physical pain as well as emotional pain. Again, we will talk about this in the somatic session that we're going to discuss, I think in our next one here, is emotions are held in the body. So much of our physical pain has a physical origin, but much of the pain associated with it is actually emotions and emotional pain, enhancing that feeling and reducing our ability to control that feeling, okay? And to manage the pain effectively. Yeah, mind blowing, right? Decrease blood pressure, again, with stress reduction, management of our nervous system, that makes sense. Connects you to your intuition and your inner guidance. This is that spirituality piece where we can shut down the world around us and truly listen to that inner voice, the inner knowing, and the whispers that are occurring within us that we often disregard or unavailable to us. And it connects you to your spiritual guidance and support. So I very intentionally use meditation to connect with my guides, to connect with my loved ones who have passed, and to connect to a lot of my intuitive guidance and support that way. But if you didn't want to do it for that spiritual reason, look at all the other benefits that you would be getting from that. Okay. So that's kind of my spiel. The other thing I tell people, especially guys that I want to start looking at doing this, is I'm like, look at, again, all of the successful people in the world. And Jason, right before we started recording, I was like, I just like talking about Chris Hemsworth.
People have noticed that, Jolene.
Because he started Center Fit, which was about, okay, let's get everyone like, sexy at home COVID bodies, right? So everyone's all over that. I mean, I just like watched him do it. I didn't participate in doing it, right? But essentially that kind of got people in, right? And then he started incorporating things like healthy eating, mindfulness, and he started incorporating meditation as a part of that Center Fit program, as a holistic part of that program. And I think that's amazing, right? And like I said, if you looked at the top CEOs of companies, like the Bill Gates of the world, like really successful people, The Rock, all of these people have forms of meditation. And, I've talked about that with The Rock before. That guy's like a glacier at this point, I think. He's not just a rock anymore. He's huge in so many ways, but he's also reconnected with his Hawaiian heritage and spirituality as well. And I think people have noticed that shift over the last couple of years with him as well, that he is way more connected to a spiritual practice too. But meditation can come in many forms. So you can sit silently and do this. I like guided meditation initially because it's less frustrating for people to quiet their mind. They can follow along with something. Some people like to just be in nature and they like to observe their surroundings and shrink themselves into this small existence and really place importance on how like little importance we actually are in this massive universe too, right? And that can shrink our problems. That can shrink a lot of things. Other people, meditation can be during a workout. Like, I don't know how much more present, like I think for The Rock, that's a huge piece too. When you are in the most extreme forms of your exercise, are you thinking about your grocery list?
No. I have downhill mountain bike. And that's very meditative because you're so focused on the trail. If you've suddenly, and I've had that happen, I'm going along and then this was back when I was a journalist and something would creep in from work. Next thing I know, I'm endoing over the front handlebars and hurting myself, right? And with boxing too, when you're sparring, you can't think of anything else or you're going to get really hurt. So I that's why I loved sport or exercise as a component of my meditation, because it is very, and I'm glad you mentioned there are lots of ways to meditate. One of them is to be in an active sport like that or working out.
Yeah. And I think that's important because I think people already do a lot of this stuff, but don't credit themselves as doing that. But when you can start now naming what that is, chiseling out time, recognizing like, oh, when I do this, I notice this, all those benefits I listed off, right? Then you can start giving credit where credit is due. And you actually get more benefit from it at that point because you start intentionally doing it for those purposes. The minute we connect anything with intention and purpose, we get better reward. Bottom line.
Oh, big time. It can't just be a random thing, and you have to really be ready for it. One method of meditation you haven't mentioned yet, and I think it's a crucial one that not enough people do anymore, is reading. Not a blog, not something online, not like on your phone. Pick up a book, sit down and read.
Love that. Yeah.
I read every day. I can crank through 50 to 60 pages in a sitting. My wife does the same thing. And just the benefit of that is because, again, everything else is going away. It doesn't have to be like, a nonfiction book. It can be freaking Harlequin romance, whatever cranks your chain or whatever you want to call it, right?
Whatever
pulls your crank. Yeah, it pulls your crank. Suddenly I had like two different metaphors in my head. But whatever works. It's amazing. And the benefits are the same. It reduces your stress. All your other problems float away. Your body relaxes. Like I have a monitor on my watch, about heart rate monitor, and when I read, my resting heart rate's like 45 beats per minute. Like it just goes right down. And it's relaxing. And you do it for an hour a day. That's great. That's amazing for your mental health, physical health. Your sleep improves. Read before bed.
Right?
You just tend to zone off. It's great.
Talk about that nervous system reset, right? Setting that parasympathetic nervous system into motion, right? Rest and digest. Absolutely. Journaling is another way of like, I call it like mind dumping, right? So you can journal with intentions, you can get ideas out of your head. Ever think about like, oh, I got to remember to do this tomorrow. How many people have been in that situation? And then when you finally get up and write it down, boom, you fall asleep, Again, that impact of like getting it out, right? Burn the paper after. I don't care what you do with it, but get it out of your head. It doesn't need to be in there anymore, right? Yeah, beautiful. So what are your primary forms of meditation? Like tell us what that would look like in your day, Jason.
Well, like every day I read, like I've already said. I'm usually doing some form of exercise every day, even if it's only like a 15-minute workout. It's something just to keep the body moving, and then doing some longer, more hardcore workouts like, jiu-jitsu or boxing, a run, a bike ride, do that a couple times a week too. I journal every day, usually kind of towards the end of my day when I want to finish my my work part of the day and want to just transition into a quiet night. I'll journal, but I also meditate, and I use an app called Headspace. I found that's one that really works for me. I used to use audio CDs. Remember what CDs were? As a start, and it was just music. It was sort of a certain kind of music design just to kind of get you in this space. But I switched to like an app, and there's lots of different apps out there. I said the Center app, Calm is another one. There's a bazillion of them. But I liked, because I could quit for a while, and then I got back into meditation, and I liked Headspace because it was guided. There was someone there to guide you through it. And I did guided for a number of years, but now I've moved just to they just have music on the app that I play for like 10 minutes. And it just works. My brain just kind of have a mantra in my head that kind of takes me somewhere. And then I just see what happens. And you can literally feel like you're going into a completely different plane of existence sometimes.
I love, just like any other enjoyable activity, the more we start to associate benefit from it and like start to crave those, like I tell people, just start with this and then like chisel the time out, start to notice what it feels like, start to notice any benefits. And eventually what I want is for you to crave this time and to recognize when you don't have it, what happens, so that you crave or prioritize it more, right? And that's like a conditioned response. If you want to look at this from a psychology perspective, anytime we're looking at like reward-based systems, we're looking at Pavlov's classic conditioning, ring the bell, the dog salivates. It's that every time I sit down with my Calm app, or I know I've got my tea and I'm going to sit in this corner. That's why I tell people in my workshop, like first session, we're establishing the sacred space, prioritization of that hour of time they spend with me, of the time where they put their journal, the smell of a candle. I have the same sage and spearmint diffused in my office all the time. People step foot in here and instantly their body is conditioned to that release of like, I'm here, right? The same way we're conditioned to other things of like that sterile smell of the dentist that might actually make us tense, right? Unless you're a weirdo.
Yeah, that dentist is anything but relaxing.
But yeah, like thinking about all of those kinds of things. So for me, like people, I know when I first started intentionally doing it and really working it into my days, like it was the, rush of COVID. I was trying to like homeschool my kindergarten son at the time with my like 2.5-year-old twins. It was like, it was a shit show. And also like going through my separation at that time, I didn't have my own space in a lot of ways. So it was like, okay, how do I just find this corner in my bedroom for a moment of like 10 minutes to do this? And it literally is little chiseled out times. Now I have like a beautiful meditation room downstairs. I go down, I dedicate really intentional space there, but I didn't always have that. And I want people to know that like, you're not always going to have the time and the space to do this, but that doesn't mean you can't still do it. And I know people do this with exercise programs. Go find a flight of stairs at a school. Go, walk around the arena while your kid's at hockey. There's always ways we can fit this in. So some people I've had them fitted in sitting in their car before they get to work or after work. Like put these earphones in, listen to the guided meditation, especially the fuck off one after work or something. Probably not before because you might just tell everyone to fuck off. But essentially finding those spaces. So for me, sometimes those spaces looked like my workspace. I would make it to work early and I would do a really good like 20-minute meditation here, set up my whole morning. Sometimes I will do it in between sessions or on my lunch break. And sometimes I actually just set my Fitbit for if I've got like 7 minutes and I want to just sit and zone out for 4 to get a quick recharge, I'll set my little timer for 4 minutes so that I don't have to worry about not opening my eyes at the right time. And it'll just vibrate on my wrist. But that 4 minutes can be such a recharge. And I believe the stats are like 10 to 15 minutes of meditation is about the same as like a couple hours of deep sleep restoration in the body. So when we look at how when our phones go on low battery and it's like 2 PM and we give it a quick 15-minute plug in, that's what you can do for yourself on your lunch break, right? So I've started encouraging people, if you have an hour for lunch, sure, go spend 40 minutes in the lunchroom, bullshit with your colleagues, but then remove yourself, go to your office and spend 10 minutes doing a quick meditation. And I promise you, you will be more focused. You won't hit that 2 o'clock wall the same way. You'll just have more clarity and kind of lightness in your head in essence, and you will have more energy. Therefore, the rest of your day is going to go a lot nicer. You're probably going to hit one last cup of caffeine, which means you're going to be less of an asshole come 5 o'clock. All these things start to really pan out. Then we look at like blood sugar levels, all this kind of stuff, right? So again, one thing dominoes into all of the others, and we can gain so much control over all those variables with one activity, which is essentially the mental discipline of meditation and the nervous system calming process of that, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned it doesn't have to be like 10 minutes or an hour. Like my average is 10, but some days I just set the timer for 5 or even 3 minutes. And even 3 minutes makes a heck of a difference. I just feel way more focused and recharged, and I can just carry on with my day. And then I'm still tired when I go to bed at night. You know what I mean? Like it's anything is good basically when it comes to meditation.
Totally. And we live in such a disconnected state. So sometimes I tell people, okay, so when you go run to the bathroom, like anyone who works at my office knows the only time you're going to see me is where my hair is flying behind me and I'm running to the bathroom in between appointments and then my door is shut again. So if you catch me in that brief moment, you're good to go. Don't really see me around here because I'm just like start to finish booked, right? So when I go to the bathroom, I have, a good like minute 45 seconds, if that. What am I doing in that time? Am I thinking about my next appointment? Am I thinking about what I just did? I intentionally focus on the moment. I count the tiles on the floor. I feel the cold water. I try and use cold water because it's very grounding and it catches my attention. I even try and count how many times I rub my hands together to actually keep me present, because it is so very possible to be entirely absent for that whole process. It's so habitual and so automatic. I actually don't need to think or be present for it. So sometimes that is a simple form of meditation. I will tell someone, when you go to the bathroom, actually pay attention. because
or even if you're out for a walk, like don't just walk and let your brain wander. Like, listen, I like to sometimes focus on what sounds my feet are making. Or if I hear a dog, and I'll start counting off, I hear a dog 2 houses down, there's an airplane flying overhead at this angle. And all that just focuses everything right back. You can even sit in the backyard on the back steps and just go like lawnmower, sprinkler system, and just do that. And it's amazing how you just focuses you into that moment.
Totally. And everything else, like you just become so focused, time slows down entirely. So think about like a 3-minute moment where you might just be grabbing your phone out of habit before that 12 o'clock Zoom meeting starts and you're sitting in the waiting room. You could scroll on your phone and that time is going to pass so quickly because you're absent for it. You're not present. If you sat there, put a timer down and just sat with yourself, that 3 minutes would probably feel like 7. It's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Time is a trip.
Oh, it is. And you can manipulate it in a variety of ways. People just don't think about that, which is a whole different conversation.
But yeah, so what people will notice on their walks is that like you're probably processing for the first little bit. I will talk about that in another episode around bilateral processing and how our body works through and processing things. But you might notice for the first half of that walk, you were like, where was I? And all of a sudden you become so much more aware of everything around you. Now you notice the clouds. Now you notice the dogs barking because you've unloaded all that stuff that was like weighing on your brain a bit. So sometimes like halfway through the walk, you might just have more ease being present. And that's because you're actually processing out all the stuff that was in the way of that. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's funny. These are same practices used in target shooting or archery as well. Like I've done both, but most recently it's been archery. And if my brain is all befuddled because of the shit of the day, I can't hit anything. So as soon as I kind of just slow everything down, focus on the target, just listen, count my breaths, everything like that, and then just pull back on the bowstring, let it sit for a second, and then fire. And it's amazing. I'll hit like near bullseyes every time.
Boom. Where's our hunters at? Okay. All of you folks out there listening that are hunters, I want you to go into the woods right now in your mind and think about what Jason just said. Like there are so many moments where you guys are doing this and you do not realize this is what you're doing. And the fact that we can now make this connection for you with you, things are going to be different, right? Now, next time you go out, you're going to notice this and you're going to be like, why am I not like fucking golf? Oh my God, golf, right? Perfect example of that. Because are you hitting the ball like shit? What's going on? Where is your mind irritated? Are you worried about the people behind you? Did you have a shitty morning? What happened, right? That is a very meditative process. It's a focused, it's a mentally disciplined process. The more we can gain control of our brain, the more fucking power we have. And we can go into a whole nother tangent around why our society is kept so damn distracted, you guys. But the weapon, the biggest weapon we can have to be successful, and successful is also leading a life we want to live peacefully, joyfully, all these things. Okay. But we also want all the good stuff too. Sex, money, rock and roll. Right.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest weapon we can have is a disciplined mind. So remember that. What is distracting you? What keeps you from disciplining your mind? How weak and unempowered does that undisciplined mind keep you? Like shit like the Tiger King, all that kind of stuff. People were either focusing on themselves and Chris Hemsworth at that point, or they were watching the Tiger King. Did you, Jason?
I never watched Tiger King. It's a load of bullshit. No, and I same. Like I don't. This is something we want to talk about in a future episode about, adapting to a changing world when you don't want to be part of the public consciousness, because I think the public consciousness is a crock of shit. But it's designed to keep you distracted. Anyway, it's a whole different topic. Weapon of choice, focused mind right now.
There's a foreshadow, guys, but absolutely. I want all of you, a couple of you just went like, ooh, mind blowing. Like, what the fuck do you think TikTok is? I haven't downloaded that one yet, guys. But like, really, these are things to keep you distracted. How many people get stuck in the hole of distraction and are prevented from doing things that are productive, that are towards self-growth, that are all the ways you can then go be more powerful and resource. Like we give away our power so much by being distracted. So I really want that to sit with people this week. I want you to think about how easy it is to start to leash that, rein that in. And again, go to my website, www.jolenedawn.com, spelled like the Dolly Parton song. I want you to think about where you could benefit from some of those things in your life, right? Yeah, you can get a pill for that. Yeah, you can, have 6 beer for that. Yeah, you can smoke a joint for that. Or you could try 10 fucking minutes of meditation and see what happens. Try it for a day, try it for a week, try it for a month, right? We're willing to try all these other things, but what if we actually just sat with ourselves?
Isn't that a scary thought? Let's leave you with that one. How scary it is to potentially sit with yourself, but it's the best thing you'll ever do in your life.
It really is. I tell you, there is no company like my own company now, but yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Well, Jolene, what do we got coming up next week? Because we have planned that.
Yeah, we are going to talk about the way emotions and experiences and traumas, if we must, but essentially our emotional and mental state, how that shows up in our body.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good.
And then go listen to the meditations.
Yes.
And give us some feedback on our Instagram page. I want to see pictures of you tagging us. Here's me trying to meditate. Here's me totally failing. Here's me totally succeeding. I don't care what you're doing. Just try.
Absolutely. And we will respond to your comments and your pictures, etc. as well, because we'd love to get the feedback from y'all. Until then, I'm Jason.
I'm Jolene.
And we'll talk again next week.